Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Money and Metals Network Coin Talk. My name is Campbell, and today it's my pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker today, Sam Moorhead. Sam is one of the foremost experts on Roman coinage with decades of dedicated research and scholarship in the field. He served as the National Finds Advisor for Iron Age and Roman coins at the British Museum for an impressive 17 years, playing a vital role in deepening our understanding of numismatics in Britain. Dr. Sam Moorhead is the author of A History of Roman Coinage in Britain, and he has recently completed the much anticipated volume Roman Imperial Coinage Volume 5, Carausius and Electus, which will be published by Spink this year. In fact, it might be out already. Sam will be able to elaborate. His scholarly contributions extend well beyond these major works. He has published extensively, including the chapter on late Roman coinage in the Oxford Handbook of Greek and Roman Coinage. And in recognition of his outstanding contributions to numismatics, Sam was also awarded the Medal of the Royal Numismatic Society in 2019. So as usual with these things, if you have any questions, please post them in the chat, and towards the end, Sam and I will go through your questions together. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to Dr. Sam Moorhead.
Thank you. Thank you, Campbell, for that kind introduction. Can everyone hear me? I don't know how they can respond, Campbell, but I assume everyone can hear me.
We can hear you.
Good, lovely. It's excellent to be with you. And I know I have actually seen who you are, so I know there's a wide range of people, some museums, some not. And I'll say at the outset that anyone who's in a museum, especially, who's having any questions at all about what I've been doing, you're more than welcome to contact me if you think I can help you. I've been asked to talk about late Roman coinage in Britain. It's a pretty big topic, and the talk will consist of going through chronologically most of the time. I will go fairly quickly at some points, because it's watching too many coins together is like watching paint dry. But this PowerPoint, which you will have as a PDF in the resource pack, covers the basic coins you need to know in the 4th century. It is a resource you can use, and I've given you more information on the PowerPoint, your PDF, than I will actually go through today. And so this is just the overview, and please do not be intimidated if there's too much, because you can go back and look at things. So it's AD 296. In fact, Campbell just mentioned Electus dies in 296, or possibly 295, in fact, I think maybe more likely. And that's the end, effectively, of what's called radiate coins. I assume you've had a radiate coinage session already. So we then have a big reform at the time of Diocletian. And between 294 and 296, he changes the coinage completely. So what do we have with Diocletian? We have a gold coin called the aureus, which is to be replaced by a solidus, another gold coin, slightly different weight, by Constantine at the beginning of the next century. We have a very short-lived argentius. There were 12 of those to the gold coin. And then we have below this numus, the 48 nummi to a gold aureus. The numus was a silver-washed coin, up to 5% silver, much larger than the old radiate. And this numus is going to stay the standard bronze denomination all the way through to the early 5th century and beyond. And this is the coin that I will consider most of all today. It is going to change in size and weight enormously, to do with mainly inflation. And we'll see that as we go through. At the bottom there, I do just show you, I see if I can get my little tool. Is that the one? Laser pointer. Here we are. This is a post-reform radiate. They're very rare in Britain, but if you see a coin with a radiate bust and a reef on the back and the voter type, they're most likely to be a post-reform radiate. They lasted for a decade or so after the reforms, and then no longer struck. So we can assume that earlier radiate coins were still circulating with nummi, and we know that from coin hoards. But I'm not talking about radiates today. Now, for each of these sections in the talk, I give you a cover slide, and I'm talking about Rees periods, which Richard Rees developed for breaking up coinage in Britain. He has 21 of them, They go from the Republican right to the end, the Theodosian at the end of the 4th century. And Reese period 15 is the period of Diocletian and the Tetrarchs and into the reign of Constantine. And all I do here is give you a range of basic information. And the main reference work at the end is Roman Imperial Coinage 6 and 7. But I'm not spending hours going through each of these slides. It's for your information. The post-reform radiates I've mentioned. We're getting them on the PAS database now, coming up, but these are rare. But I just put them there so you're aware they still strike a few radiates after the reforms. And then we get the numi. Now, the numis you're going to see most of all is Genio Populi Romani, the genius of the Roman people. And this is a standard type. I think about 95% of all the numi from the Tetrarchate period have this reverse. It's struck across all the mints, all the way from London to Alexandria, for the 4 tetrarchs. So you've got Diocletian and Maximian. So these coins are the standard numis of the Tetrarchate period. And they are to continue, the numis is to continue being struck, as I say, in different sizes, different weights, all the way to the end of the 5th century. So this is where I need to talk about the numis in broader sense. The 4th century is the era of the bronze numis. Gold and silver come a little bit later. I'll talk about those at the end. So you will see in some of the books you've got, like David Sears' Roman Coins and Their Values, that it has A1, 2, 3, and 4. This is devised by a French scholar called Moorhead back in the 19th century, and it goes on sizes. So anything over 25 millimeters is an A1, i.e. base metal 1, copper 1, and then A2, A3, going down to the tiny little A4. So that just gives you an idea of the size of these coins if you're reading books which have this use. On the PAS database, we just call them all numi. That's the standard. I'll come to the weights in a minute. So let's just go down to the next one. Technical information. What's important is, one is the diameter, and it's best to do it across the bust. Oval coins, you can give 2 dimensions. Then we have weight, 2 decimal points, where possible, please. And then diaxis. And if you're not sure about diaxis, you hold the coin between your fingers at 12 o'clock like this, spin it round, and if it comes upside down, it's 6 o'clock. So British coins are all 12 o'clock, American coins are all 6 o'clock. This is important because in the 4th century, there are lots and lots of contemporary copies, and they often have a diaxis, which is not 12 or 6. They could be 9 or 3 or 8 o'clock or whatever. And diaxis is a good way of determining whether a coin is actually a contemporary copy rather than a regular one. And obverse titles, I just give you here abbreviations of all the titles that you're going to see, from Imperator, Dominus Noster, all the way down to Devo for the divine coins of Constantius and Constantine. These are all abbreviations you will find in inscriptions on the obverse. And this is where I can also bring in something else. So Sears' Roman Coins and Their Values is a useful book. It's illustrated at the end of this talk. RCV, I refer to it as. So in this PowerPoint or your PDF, it will have RCV and page numbers. Then there's my book, History of Roman Coinage, HRC, and that has numbers. So these are all explained in those 2 books if you want any more information on them. And this is some obverse legends to test yourself with. If I'm doing this training in person with people, I make them go through them. So you get an idea how they work. And just to say that Impsi Diocletianus PF Org, so Imperator Caesar Diocletian Pius Felix Augustus, on the coins themselves, as you can see here, there is no break between the different parts of the inscription. So you have to effectively cut the inscription into its bits as you read it. Now, for Reese periods, we have here 21 periods of Richard Reese's. I added 2 more some years ago, and they're now being used fairly extensively for the 5th century. And so these are the periods which we try to assign coins to. And if you go onto the PAS database and you've got a tetrarchic coin, you can just search on Reese period 15 and they'll all come up. So, and these are the periods we use for applied numismatics, for comparing one site to another with number of coins found, a really useful way of breaking down coins into groups. And that's how I'm going to be covering the rest of the talk. The mints, as I say, stretch all the way from London to Alexandria. The number of mints has been expanding during the 3rd century. Now they reach their full spread across the whole empire, and they have a regular mint mark system. So what you're going to find on the mint mark is you're going to have a core mint mark letters. So here, this is MOST B, it's OST for Ostia in the middle. You can see there. This is for London, it's LN or LON, Trier, TR, Lugdunum, LVG, AL, and it goes on all the way down. So these are the core letters. But in front and or afterwards, they often have other letters. So you're looking for those letters in a mint mark, but then you'll get others. Here are the other mint marks going all the way to Alexandria. So SIS for Siscia. That's the coin. After Siscia, you don't get so many of these coins in Britain. Siscia is the last common mint represented in Britain. Now, the other letters, though, can be interesting. So here we've got numbers. One with OF, officina means workshop. Mints were broken into workshops, and on some of the coins, they actually number the workshop that struck the coin. So here we've got one of Gratian, officina 3, the 3rd workshop at Con. Now, that's the confusing one. This Con is actually for Constantia, which is Arles at this time, and then it has an asterisk, which is another little symbol we'll come to. But you'll find the officina letters are often PSTQ, for prima, secunda, tertia, quarta, and then often they're Greek letters, up to 15 officina in some of the Eastern mints. So many of the extra letters you're going to have are for workshops. And then we have SM for Sacra Moneta, Com for Comitatus, which isn't on this one. This is Trier, OB, Abritomorum, pure gold. Down here, that means pure gold, okay? And on silver coins, you get PS for Puzzolatum, pure silver. So these are all letters we get, and they'll come in combinations. Sometimes you get symbols, and here you can see we've got, on this one, a crescent down here, and they're control marks. Often the issues, they change the symbol from one issue to another as an internal control mark at the mint. So it's going to take a while to get used to them, but you have lots and lots of different parts of the mint mark, but the crucial thing is to get the core. And here's one which we have and how we write them down. Traditionally, you'll see in books that you have, they're written with a line and a line across, so an upright and a cross line at the bottom, and then you put the symbol on the left and whatever on the right and then letters below. You can't do that on a computer. So this is a star here, X. Then you can put a little slash and then a blank. There's nothing here, no mint mark, and then PLN underneath for Pecunia Londiniensis below. I explain this in my book quite clearly. So that's how we actually write the mint marks out when you have them in fields marks as well. Okay, the exergal line here is a double slash. And here's some more examples. Sacra Moneta, Aquileia, S Secunda, 2nd workshop. So this is the 2nd workshop of the Sacred Mint of Aquileia. This is the London one with a crescent and a star and PLN underneath. And that's how you'd write it. And that's how you'd write that one. And Comob, so Comitatus, this is the court mint at Sirmian at the time, and it's pure gold. And this is Trier, and it's Puzzolatum, pure silver, and there's a dot afterwards. Some of the coins don't have the dot, some of them do. 2 different issues. So that's mint marks. Now, in the 4th century, we don't tend to catalogue coins by emperor. We tend to catalogue them by reverse types, because the reverse types are what drive the different issues as they're being struck. Earlier on, in the 3rd century and before, you have emperors, and then they have a whole range of reverse types. Now they tend to produce reverse types over a period of time, and you have lots of different emperors, junior emperors, using the same reverse type, and they're struck at the same mint, different mints across the empire. So here's a very common one, Gloria Exercitus here. So you'd write down Gloria Exercitus, and then you would list the number of coins by mint and by emperor, etc. Now, this reverse type system enables you to put your coins in chronological order. This little book by Rees and James, quite old now, lovely line drawings, except they do explain at the back the sizes, but all the sizes are the same. So you have to be aware that they're not necessary to scale, relative scale. But it lists all the coins by date, so 337 to 341. These are all the coins that you're going to have in that little period. And then it goes on by reverse type. The odd obverse type over here, but not exclusive. This is a very useful little tome. Now we get back to our little run through. We've had those two numi, and now we're going to get the later tetrarchic, and you're going to find coins like this. You can see here that the coin has reduced in size, and the biggest clue is Genio Populi Romani has become Genio Pop Rom. You can see there. So it's been reduced in size and weight. So these coins now are a result of inflation. They're smaller. And the Genio Pop Rom, very common for the Emperor Licinius. And Constantine, with his Christian conversion, puts the sun god on. It's a long story. But here is Constantine with Soli Invicto Comity to the invincible sun god. And you can see here the sun god standing with holding a globe. This coin, very, very common for about almost a decade for Constantine. And even one issue from Trier has Sun himself on the back, Sol, with his radiate crown. And there's one half numis, a smaller coin, which is Soli Invicto, struck at Trier as well. That one. Now, I need to mention here something else. You see DCR, you've got a whole lot of PDFs. Andrew Brown and I wrote a lot of daily coin relief articles during COVID to send out to fines officers and other people around the country who were all stranded in their houses. And these articles cover specific parts of the coinage. A lot of them are the 4th century. So Andrew wrote a whole piece on fractional numi of the 4th century in DCR 16. So you can go and find that in your resource pack, and there's a whole piece on these coins. Next period, 16, this is Constantine with Licinius until he defeats Licinius in 324 up until 330. This is Rees period 16. And there are some basic types here you need to know. The first is that Licinius out in the east is pagan still, although he's supposed to be Christian, and his coins have Jupiter with his eagle, so Jovi Conservatori, so Jupiter my protector. And these coins are from Eastern mints, Heraclea to Alexandria, and they're found in Britain in a significant number. I mean, they're not common, but they're not rare. So we do get the odd one of these Licinius pieces for him or for his son. Constantine, meanwhile, in the west, is striking a series of types you need to know. So Victoria Lighti Princ Perp to the joy of the victorious perpetual prince. And here we have Constantine normally helmeted on these coins, 2 victories with a reef, Vot PR, Populus Romanus, above an altar on the back. And these coins were struck 318 to 320. I give you the date there. They're AE3s, so you've got the basic information. And they're struck at Western mints. And they have a little bit of silver in them. They have a silver sheen often to them. That gives way to another type, Vertis Exercit, with 2 captives under a standard or a trophy. And these, as you can see, they all have daily coin reliefs about them. Then we have much more common, Beata Tranquillitas, which is a globe on an altar, which is Votis XX, so it's a voter for 20 years rule. And these are struck commonly at Trier, Lugdunum and Arles and London. And we have lots of these coming up. Some of them are copies. For in this case, Crispus, the son of Constantine, but they're struck across for all the emperors of the time, Constantine, Crispus and Constantine II. So the globe and altar you'll see, and there's one particular one with a reduced legend, abbreviated legend, Beat Tranquillitas, which has to be from London. Of course, either it's illiteracy or they just can't be bothered, but London strikes this type So whenever you see that legend, if you can't read the mint mark, you still know it's London. Salmatia de Victor, victory, trampling a captive here. This coin, again, celebrating victories, happens quite often. There's another one, Alemannia, the German victory as well. Voter coins, you're going to get a number of voter coins. These are Jubilee coins, so to speak. So this is, again, celebrating 20 years of rule for Constantine. And this one is from Thessalonica, TSE 6. So it's the 6th workshop of Thessalonica down here. And more voter coins for the junior emperors who only have 10 rather than 20. They haven't been around for so long. And then the Campgate coins, Providentia coins, were Campgate, very common from Trier as well, and again struck for all emperors. And you get ones for the Augustus is AVGG. It should only be 1G, but he kept the second one. Licinius has gone by now. And here for the Caesars, Kais, rather than AVGG. And Helena, the mother of Constantine, St. Helena, she has coins struck for her in the 320s, and she has coins struck for her at the end of the 330s. They're two different issues. So here's Helena, and here's Fausta, who was the mother of Crispus, who tried to have, oh, no, not the mother of Crispus. She was the mother of the other children. She tried to have an affair with Crispus, who was her stepson. He got murdered as a result, or executed. And then when it was discovered actually she was making it up, she then got dismissed by Constantine by being boiled in her bath. So Fausta, and another coins of Fausta as well from Trier. There are a few pieces from this period which just have the inscription of the emperor on the back, and they're anepigraphic, no inscription on the front. Again, these are covered in DCR. These are all types running chronologically through the 320s. So if you have these types, this covers pretty well every single coin you're ever going to see from the 320s. And in Britain, if we look at the Rees period graph, we'll see that these periods 15 and 16, they're not terribly well represented compared to the next periods 17 and 18 and 19, but you get a few of them. So we get to Rees period 17. These are the most common coins found in Britain. Only 18 years. These numi are really everywhere. Every site you go to, you excavate, you find them. And they start off with two which are quite rare, which are celebrating the foundation of Constantinople, struck in Constantinople, Pop Romanus types. And you get a few of these. They are quite small. They are tiny wee. They're about 13 millimeters in diameter. But then we get the common ones. Gloria Exercitus, to the glory of the army, 2 soldiers and 2 standards. At 330 to 335, these are found in bucket loads for all the emperors. Then you get the same version from 335 to 341 with only 1 standard, same inscription. And so they take up the next 5 years or so. And at the same time, they strike coins celebrating Rome, Urbs Roma, with the Wilfran twins, and Constantinople, with Constantinopolis and victory on a prow, referring to Constantinople's status as a major port. And those 4 types are incredibly common. You get them everywhere. But you also get them as copies. And contemporary copies of these coins are very common. They tend to be smaller, they tend to be lighter, they have cruder styles, as you can see, and often their diaxis is irregular. But they're coming up. In fact, I'm just doing at the moment coins from the temple site in Greenwich Park. We're digging it again this year. And we've got a number of these already with irregular dies. I was doing them yesterday and they're having diaxis of 9 or 3 o'clock. So those are contemporary copies. Then you get, when Constantine dies in 337, you get the last Divus issue of a Roman emperor. So Divo Constantino, to the divine Constantine. And he's on the obverse, it's a standard pagan representation of a veiled emperor. On the reverse, you've got Constantine riding in a quadriga, a chariot, to the hand of God up here. So it's a Christian style reverse, but not overtly with a pagan obverse. It shows you how there's still this ambivalence within the Roman world about overtly showing your Christianity. And there are a couple of other types. The Virtus type, you'll see a few of from this period for the sons of Constantine. But then you get a lot of coins for Helena, Pax Publica. This is the really common coin of Helena. They come up in the bucket loads, as do coins of Constantine's wife Theodora. These come up in absolute bucket loads as well. The Helena is Pax Publica, and this is Pietas Romana with an infant at her breast. So these two really are as common almost as the Gloria Exercitus, the Urbs Roma and Constantinopolis. And the final type from this period is two victories. Right at the end, 347, 348, we have two victories facing each other, struck in the Western mints. Now, if you know those 5 or 6 types I've just shown you, from the Gloria Exercitus through to these, you're going to be getting about probably 30–40% of all the coins found on excavation, just those basic types. And to give you an idea, the Thornbury hoard had 11,640 of these coins, and the all the hoard together only represented 1 or 2 gold solidi, depending on which papyrus you're going to go on from Egypt. High inflation at the time. So in the marketplace, you can imagine these being carried around in purses or bags, almost probably being transacted through weight with gold. And at the time, there was very little in the way of money between the copper coins and the gold coins. So it'd be like today using a £50 note and a 1p piece without anything in between. And you can see here that that period is the highest coin loss in Britain. So Richard Rees had it at 25%. Philippa Walton, when she looked at PAS data a few years ago, had it at about 27.5%. So I'd say on excavations, those figures can even go higher. And this shows you where they're found across Britain. Anywhere you get Roman coins, you find coins of period 17. Now, the next period, 18, there's a big reform. And it has the classic legend Felicium Tempus Reparatio, which means happy days are here again. Feltemp Reparatio is how they abbreviate it. And these Feltemp Reparatio coins get bigger, and they have a silver content which is increased. So here we have the standard galley type with the emperor on a galley holding a phoenix or a victory with victory steering, Feltemp Reparatio. And these are struck for Constans and Constantius. But again, because they're silvered, they're quite attractive coins. They do get copied. So here we have a contemporary copy below. That's from Rome. This is from a copy of a coin from Lyon. And here's one with a victory rather than a phoenix from Trier. Then you get another type, slightly smaller, sometimes called an AE2B, as opposed to AE2A, with a soldier dragging a small figure from underneath a hut. And this is discussed enormously what it actually means, and I'm not going to go into that now, but the obverse, you often can tell this coin, the head is going left, the bust is left, holding a globe. I've always called it the bowling alley coin, and often you can identify these coins just from the obverse if the reverse is unclear. But this is the next one down, not quite so much silver as the other one. And then you get the smaller coin, the AE3, which has no silver at all. And they, because of the 248 and the 1000th anniversary of Rome, it's the Phoenix, the rebirth of Rome. And Phoenix can be standing on a globe or a pile of rocks, or a funeral pyre, some people suggest. A rocky mound is what it's normally called. So the Phoenix coin, and these are very common. And they're nearly all from Trier when you're looking at them in Britain. Now, after the 350, you have a slight change because Constans here gets killed by Magnentius. Oops. And Magnentius is a usurper who has a British father and he has a Frankish mother, and he has a lot of support in Britain. It's another story, but the coins of Magnentius in Britain would make an incredible PhD student thesis for someone. Covered in DCR 34, these are, but there are basic types again that you will always see. So the first one, the Magnentius, not Dicentius, he's not ruling yet, is Justus Felicitas Rei Publico. And it has the emperor standing holding victory and a Christian standard here. This coin struck at all the Western mints where Magnentius is ruling. The other one at the early period before Dicentius is Gloria Romanorum, where he's riding down a captive. And this one struck at Ambianum, which is Amiens, which is his hometown. So he actually set up a mint at Amiens, and it existed only for 3 years, but that's an Amiens mint. This is Trier with a crescent, you can see there. Then when Dicentius comes along, they both have this type, which is to the victories of our lords, the Augustus and Caesar. It's another voter coin, Vot 5 Mult X, which is a bit confusing because he's only been on the throne for 3 years. So how he can claim he's ruled for 5 years, looking forward to his 10th year, is another story. But anyway, this one struck at Amiens. You see the crescent and dot here, a very common symbol on mint marks. And you've got the staurogram, which is the crossed row. The staurogram, very common in the 4th century, along with the key row. So this is actually an incredibly common coin for both Magnentius and Dicentius. But his most famous coin, or their most famous coin, was the big key row coin here, with basically it says Christ, the first 2 letters of Christ, the beginning and the end, Alpha and Omega, is basically the health of our emperors, the Augustus and Caesar, again struck in Amiens. And you get a few which are cut down. And these cut down coins, it's actually from a villa up in Northamptonshire, Biddington Villa, where I was doing some coins for them. Well, I can't remember now, it must have been 10 years ago. And some of these came from a sealed context in a well, which can be dated to the 350s. So these are actually contemporary coins. When these large coins are outlawed, when Magnentius is defeated, and they go back to a smaller module coin, then people start to cut smaller module coins out of the bigger coins so they can still use them. An example of activity on the ground, people changing their ways as a result of official legislation. Briefly, Constantius has coins struck at Trier during this period because Poenius, one of the generals, rebels against Magnentius. So Constantius has another key row coin as well. This one not so common. The most common coin, though, of this period is the Feltemp Reparatio fallen horseman types, and they're normally quite small module, A3 normally, covered in one of the daily coin reliefs. And these are regular ones. So this one's from Lyon, one from Arles. You see here, CON is for Arles on this one, not Constantinople. And you can see the soldier spearing a falling horseman. There are all sorts of styles. Sometimes the horseman looks backwards. Sometimes he's been pushed over the neck of the horse. But these coins are incredibly common, but even more common as copies. So here's quite a good copy, and this is a very small 8mm diameter. You can just see the horse and the man in his arms and the bottom of the soldier here. And these coins can go down for up 5mm. Again, we've had a lot of them at the temple site I'm dealing with, and they are like confetti. You get them in vast quantities. And if you get a 4th century numis that looks really odd and the design doesn't look clear, it's 9 times out of 10 going to be one of these Feltemp copies. And this is because they're not issuing enough regular coinage at the time. So people are having to issue their own smaller copies increasingly to make up for a lack of small change. And some of them are overstruck on earlier pieces. So you can just see here part of a 2 victories coin overstruck with a Feltemp coin struck later. So they're recycling some of these small module coins that were ceased to be used in 348 with the reforms. They come back into use again and are recycled. This coin, the Spes Republica, at the end of the 350s, very rare in Britain, incredibly rare. You don't see them at all often. That's one of the reasons probably for the Feltemp copies, because we aren't receiving these coins in quantity. After Constantius dies in 361, it's Julian the Apostate. His coins are incredibly rare in Britain. His copper coins are very rare. His silver is much more common. But copper, this coin of a bullon, this is the first one ever found in Britain, and it was actually donated to the British Museum. It's on display in the museum now. A second one has come up since, from Leicestershire, if I remember rightly. So there's now two on the database. These are large coins with the bull, the sacrificial coin of Jupiter, there's Jupiter's eagle, and the two stars almost certainly referring to Castor and Pollux, the stars which appear on the first denarii struck at Rome about 500 years earlier. Very pagan. And he strikes some voter coins as well, but incredibly rare. We now get to 19, which is the House of Valentinian. And you only need to know three coins for this period. Securitas Rei Publicae, Victory advancing left. These are A3, so about 15, 16, 17 millimeters in diameter. And Victory advancing left. This one is for R Tertia, so it's Rome, the third workshop. This one is, I think, Gamma Siskiyou, so the third workshop at Siskiyou here. So Victory left, Securitas, for Valentinian 1, Valens and Gratian. Valentinian 2, incredibly rare. And then you have the other type, Gloria Romanorum, the emperor dragging a captive and holding a Christian standard. Now you can see here OF2 for Lugdunum. This is Aquileia. So Gloria Romanorum, this type, get this one in your head. And then the third one is Gratian only, from Arles only. So it's RIC 15 whenever you get one. And it has lots of different mint mark varieties, but it shows the emperor with a Christian standard and a shield. And Gloria Novi Saeculi, basically the glorious new era of Gratian. Well, it wasn't quite like that. He ended up being a bit of a failure, but that doesn't matter. So if you know those three types, you can identify pretty well every single House of Valentinian coin you're ever going to see, and you will see a lot of them, because in some parts of the country they're very, very common. So you can see overall in Britain 115%, so a lot of them. But go to Wiltshire, which is has been my stomping ground for the last 40 plus years, and you will see over 20%, almost as many as period 17. And this is to do with the fact that you can see these are the high concentrations of Valentinianic coins, a very distinctive pattern, not the southeast, but West Country, around the Wash. It's all the agricultural regions of Britain in the late Roman period. Most of the sites are near to rivers. When Philippa Walton was doing this, we saw them mostly near to rivers, and this is what's going on. These are the areas, I'm convinced, we know it from quernstones and everything, where they're producing grain, which is being exported to the continent in the 4th century, on the Rhineland especially. So those Valentinianic coppers often show, well, they do show you where Roman officialdom is extracting British resources. Reese period 20, the first Theodosian period, coins are rare. Don't get many of them at all. So you get this one, which when I started PAS, we hardly had any around at all in Britain. We're now getting a trickle of these larger AE2s, 24 millimeters, basically Reparatio Rei Pub, the restoration of the Republic with the emperor raising a turreted figure. You get a few of these in Britain. You get a few AE3s of Theodosius and Gratian as well, with the emperor seat, with Constantinopolis or Roma seated. You get, this is the most common coin in this period. It's a voter coin of Gratian, Vot 15 Mult 20. I do talk about it in the DCR, and it's LRBC, Late Roman Bronze Coinage, number 371. And this, 9 times out of 10, you get a voter coin from this period. It's one of these, and they are tiny. They're about 14 millimeters in diameter. You get the odd one, which isn't a Vot 15. This is a Vot V Mult X of Theodosius. And then you get a Vot X Mult XX of Gratian. You get a few others, but it's that first one which is common. And then the last piece that you will find from this period is the Campgate type, Spes Romanorum, the hope of the Romans, which is struck for Magnus Maximus and Flavius Victor, the two usurpers in the West. Magnus Maximus usurped in Britain first, and these coins are really small but very distinctive Campgate, much smaller than the earlier Campgate coins you saw for the Constantinian period. And then we get to the last period of bronze, which is the House of Theodosius period 2, which period 21, 388 to 402, although most of these coins are struck by 395. After 395, only the copper coins struck after is actually Rome, and I should have changed this PowerPoint because Aquileia, now we know, only strikes up to 395. So effectively, bronze coinage ends in 395 in Britain. And we have two types, Victoria Org, so three emperors at the time. We have Theodosius, Honorius, and Arcadius, so AVGGG, victory with a reef and a palm, reef and palm. And they're from Western Mint, so we've got Arles and Trier and also Lugdunum and Rome. And then the other one is Salus Rei Publicae, to the health of the Republic. And this has victory holding a trophy over her shoulder and dragging a captive. But the most crucial thing is this staurogram here, the barred row. And that often, when you have an unclear coin, that is the thing you can see, the symbol you can see, and you say, I got a Salus, because that doesn't appear on the Victoria Org type. And these struck, as I say, except for Rome, down to 395. And you can see with 21, we only have about 5% of the coins from this period. There are not many of them, but they tend to shrink. These copper little bronzes are found at nodal sites where the Roman authorities are still trying to hang on. So, for example, around London, Richborough, Canterbury, east of the Isle of Wight, Cirencester, and then major settlements on road systems and coastal settlements like Rendlesham, for example, near Waltham Castle. There is the picture of these late coins, and you can see that this is PAS. They are all over the country, the numi, but they tend to be in nodal points. Until PAS came along, we had next to no coins post-dating 395, which were bronze, but we now have a number, and Andrew Brown is going to publish another article soon on it. But this is a numus of the House of Theodosius, and it was found up on the north of Hadrian's Wall, and they thought it was a Gloria Exercitus 1 standard. But I've done a lot of these in the Mediterranean, and that is the clue. The star behind the emperor's head there gives the clue that this is actually 3 emperors, Gloria Romanorum, 406 to 408. How that got north of Hadrian's Wall is anyone's guess, but we're getting a few of these later bronze coins up to 430 now in Britain as a result of PAS. I know I'm running out of time. Just going to quickly do silver and then gold. In the middle of the 4th century, they reintroduce a major silver coinage in the Roman world, and it's a siliqua now. Is the main denomination, although we also have millirenzes and half siliquae too. And these coins start to be struck for Constantius II and Julian in the 350s. And they are pretty well pure silver, puzzolatum I mentioned, although at this time there were people trying to forge them. And we do get quite a number of forgeries. But in 364, 365, the House of Valentinian reformed the coinage, and they insist on pure silver. It has to come to the mints pure. If you are found to be adulterating your silver, you're executed. And this is where the puzzolatum PS comes in for pure silver. So from 364, they are pretty well pure. This is the millirenzes, which is about the size, a little bit smaller than a 10p piece. These are the large silvers. You only tend to get them in hoards. And there's another one, the Valentine II. The siliqua, which is about the size of a 5p piece, these are the ones which are most common. So this is Aquileia pure silver here for Gratian. And we go through the rest of this with Magnus Maximus producing them, the pagan emperor Eugenius producing them, up until the last copious output was from the Mint of Milan between 395 and 402. and these were struck for Honorius and Arcadius. MDPS, so Mediolanum Milan pure silver. These are the most common coins that tend to come up, and a lot of them are clipped, which I'll come to in a minute. But after this issue, silver output in the Roman world just collapses. You get a few small number of coins afterwards, but very few. What they start doing as a result is they appear to be clipping them, and the clippings are used, often melted down to make copies of pure silver or ingots, we think, from ingot hoards as well, Coleraine in Northern Ireland. And the clip coins, big debate about when it happens. So Andrew Burnett suggested after 404. Peter Guest said certainly 402, but I'm actually in with Andrew Burnett and Richard Abney, thinking it's most of them are 407-11 after this period. So these, many of them are probably a form of sub-Roman coinage after the Roman authorities have been kicked out in 409. There is a brief reprisal. A few silver coins are struck for Constantine III when he's on the continent, and we only tend to get the early ones in Britain up here. The later one here from Patching, the Patching hoard, which is much, much later, is much rarer in Britain. So we get a few of these coming in. And if you look at the clip siliqui, which are the ones that a lot of them are probably in use in the post-Roman period, you can see that it shows a use of currency across the province, certainly for a decade or two after the collapse of the Roman world. The last gold coins, they have similar reforms with gold. So I mentioned Obrisiacum or Obrisum Aurum, two different ways of saying it. This is a gold ingot, which is pure gold stamped to tell you that it is. And these are the gold coins struck. So here we are, pure gold from Trier. And here's another one I showed you earlier, Sirmium, the court mint of pure gold at Sirmium. And this one is a tremesis, or a third of a gold solidus, first issued by Magnus Maximus of all people. And this is the coin that's going to be copied most in the post-Roman world by the successor kingdoms across Europe. So the Visigoths, the Merovingians and others, they are to use the tremesis denomination more than the aureus, the solidus. The Hoxton hoard, which is probably buried, it's TPQ 407 to 408, Constantine III. I think it was buried 10 years later, about 417, has 580 solidi. You can see here the gold ones, and over 14,000 silver coins, so Milliorensis, clip siliqui in quantity. The gold in very good condition, and it contains some of the gold. The last issues which get to Britain are 408 to 407. And in fact, in St Albans Museum, you will see a hoard found recently, which is coins of this type of the latest coins, a hoard that was obviously buried just as Britain was leaving the empire. And then you get the odd later coin coming in, gold coin, all the way through the 5th century. You get the odd one. So this is one here of Honorius. So I've hurried through some books and articles. I've just made a list of them here for you. You've got a reading list already in my resource pack, but I give you images of some of the books so you know what you're looking for. And I don't get any royalties for this one at all, but it is an overall coverage, and it does have all the common types in it, and they're illustrated. Roman coins and the value object I see is useful. This one helps you to identify more closely the bronze coins of the 4th century with illustrations. It's a German book issued in English. Late Roman bronze coinage, if you can get hold of a copy, really worth having. It's 1961. For the Valentinian and Theodosian periods, it's better than RIC. And it's a thin volume, and you can do every coin from 324 onwards. And then Rees and James I mentioned earlier, and Andrew Brown did 50 finds of coinage, which has some 4th century. And then there's some more general coins book. So this is the London Mint for the Tetrarchic period, the 2nd edition by Cloak and Toon. Some books on Roman coinage in Britain by Casey, Rees, and Philippa Walton's thesis, and that, of course, is RIC. And in here, the handbook, Campbell mentioned I've done one of the late chapters, but Richard Abbey has done also the earlier 4th century as well, and that gives you a background to the general currency in the empire. So I think with that, I better shut up. I'm sorry, I probably sent everyone to sleep, so you'll need to wake them all up, Campbell.
I don't think I'll need to wake them up at all, Sam. Thank you so much. That was an incredibly comprehensive and really, really interesting presentation on late Roman coinage. Um, it's not a period I personally focus on a lot, and for me, I feel like I learned a lot. So really fantastic. Thank you so much. I see we've got some questions in the chat. So we've got well, first of all, Stephen Jackson has thanked you for the PDF resource pack. He says it's fantastic. Um, Thomas Cadbury has asked whether there were any meaning behind the symbols used for mint marks, e.g., the crescent, the star, the Cairo, etc.
No. Hello, Tom. I hope you're well down in Exeter and that everyone's behaving themselves. The crescent marks, and no, they are control marks. And in fact, it led to a whole big debate because one of those Victoria Light Eye Print Perp coins, a 318 to 320, had a key row on the Constantinian coin. And there was a massive argument about whether this key row is actually a symbol of Christ or just a control mark. And it's almost certainly a control mark. So when you see an asterisk or a star, a crescent, even a key row in the early periods or a reef, they are control marks. They don't have any other significance that I know of at all, because they're repeated again and again in different issues.
Brilliant, thank you. Stephen Jackson has asked whether the clipping of the Siliqua was widespread across the Western Roman regions, or was it more of a British phenomenon?
Very good question. It's pretty well exclusively British. And we actually have, in the reign of Constantine III, you will know he went to the continent, and they probably started clipping them around about that time after 404. And there's a couple of hoards now found in the foothills of the Pyrenees with clipped coins. And we know that British troops went abroad with him. So these are probably British troops going down to defend that frontier where his son Constans was, and they're burying some of their British coins. But no, clipping elsewhere in the West is not common. But I should say one other thing. For Siliqui, Britain has more Siliqua hoards than the rest of the Roman Empire put together. And there are more Siliqui finds in Britain by far than any other part of the Roman Empire. They are incredibly popular in Britain, very common. And so they make up a currency in Britain which didn't seem to exist in the same way in any other part of the Roman Empire. It's bizarre. Again, there's another thesis there for someone to work on in the future. But yes, clipping is a very British phenomenon.
Thank you again, Sam. It's interesting what you say about the Siliqua being more common in Britain than anywhere else. When I was doing hoard studies during my MA, I was looking at coin hoards that included coinage of Gordian III, and I looked at Britain, France, and Germany, and I looked at all of their hoards to write an analysis, and it seemed like the silver coinage, even when it came to like Gordian III, remained in circulation longer in Britain as well. So I think it's interesting.
Yep.
We have another question from James, who asks, is the Patching hoard still considered one of the latest Roman coin hoards buried in Britain? I'm lucky enough to curate it here at Worthing Museum.
Oh, yes. Patching is absolutely crucial. It's one of those game-changing hoards. It's in the 470s, and in fact, Richard Abdy wrote about it. I mean, the book, which I do recommend to you, is I'm just going to get it off the shelf and I'll read out the title. There is a book called The Late Roman Silver, and it's edited by Fraser Hunter and Kenneth Painter. And this book was produced after a conference. We all had a conference up in Scotland, And it does give a background to all of the hoards of the time. And you will understand how patching is either the last Roman hoard or the first medieval hoard found in Britain, depending on how you look at it. And I think if you are in Worthing and you haven't done any work on it, my suggestion would be to email Richard Abdy at the British Museum and go and visit him and have a chat to him about it, because he can give you a load of information about patching. I'm more than happy to talk about patching as well, but it consists of late Roman gold, late Roman silver, hack silver, which is silver all cut up. I haven't had time to talk to you about that. So cut up ingots, silver plate as well. And it has barbarian, if we're allowed to call them that, successor state copies of Roman gold coins. So it's got Visigothic copies of Roman gold coins as well. They're called pseudo-imperial coins. It is the most wonderful interface between the late Roman and the early medieval world. It's an incredible hoard. It really is. You've got literally one of the top most important hoards in Britain in Worthing.
James followed up by saying Fraser came down to study the hack silver from the hoard last year.
Oh, right. So, well, then you know all about it. Fraser, he's Scotland's greatest curator.
And he's also redisplaying it later this year. Brilliant talk.
Excellent. Excellent.
I myself had a quick question. I was really interested in the overstrikes you showed off around R18. And
Yeah.
I know that those are unofficial overstrikes, but I guess my question is, do we sort of know why they were overstriking it? Because it's a small coin to begin with, and as you said, they're a little bit like confetti. We have so many of them. So what would the purpose be in restriking it or overstriking it?
It's a very good question, but my assumption is that, and I make it up because we don't have the written sources as such, but in 348 they reform the coinage. So they get basically all the earlier numi become demonetized. And we have good evidence of that because we have lots of coin hoards that end with those 2 victory coins, the small numi. So obviously people have a stack of this stuff. They don't know what to do with it. They bury it. Then you have these new reform coins come through, and they're larger module coins. Even the smallest one is bigger than the old ones, the Phoenix coins. And they go through Magnentius copies the same sizes. And then in 354, when Magnentius has been defeated, it seems that the only way in the West that they can get rid of the coins of Magnentius is to outlaw all large module coins. So all the large module coins are outlawed. We have a decree that refers to Southern Gaul and North Africa. And as a result of that, they then produced the smaller module falling horseman coins, which I showed you, 353 onwards, 354 onwards. These coins struck by Constantius and for his nephew Constantius Gallus and then Julian. So those small module coins are struck. And that means suddenly people go, we can bring back into play some of the earlier stuff that we had. So when they start copying these coins, because there's a shortage of them, then of course the convenient thing to do is just to overstrike the earlier small coins, which are now at the same module. And my assumption is they overstrike them because then that blurs the fact that the earlier coins were known to be demonetized. So now they overstrike them and can get a claim, it's a falling horseman type. It sounds bizarre, but that's the only explanation I can think of. So it's local people in Britain taking matters into their own affairs. And of course, if people accept them in Britain, and I think these coins moved around in big purses, big bags of them by weight, then it doesn't really matter if you've got overstruck ones in there or not. No one's looking individually at coins, in my opinion. I think it's bulk movement. So that's what they're doing. Doesn't really answer your question fully, but it sort of gives some context.
No, but it's really interesting because I had also assumed that they were being dealt with in huge bulk just because of the sheer quantity we have of them, which
Yeah.
is
Mm,
why I thought it was bizarre that they were overstriking them in the first
mm,
place.
mm.
But your explanation's very good.
Well, in the one lasting in the 5th century and 6th century, you get tiny numi, and there are about 6,000 of them at one stage to a gold coin, and we know they're in purses, and they even start to produce lead blanks of the same size, and they chuck them in the purses. So they're profiteering by putting little round bits of lead in with the coins. Uh, and that shows you that they're in purses. No one's looking at them. It's just a big solid dumping down of purses. It's using the 1p piece and the 50p and the £50 note. That's how incongruous the coinage has become.
That's amazing, though. I'll definitely have to do some more reading up on on that. That sounds funny. Okay, well, I can't see any more questions in the chat, so thank you again, Sam, for the fantastic talk. Our next talk is going to be on the 18th of June with Belinda Day from the National Army Museum. Uh, for this month, we're moving away from coins. We're going to be doing campaign medals and ribbons. Um, so the sign up for that will be open at the end of this month, as will the YouTube video of last month's talk that will be up on the YouTube channel as well on Medieval Scottish Coinage Part 2. So thanks again, Sam, and if everyone else can join me in thanking Sam, that would be fantastic.
Thanks all.